Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, as I said in the last one, we do a little bit of a rookie sort of update and how I think they're going to be sort of viable, what I think they're going to do, and sort of just go through if a lot of them are going to play round one or what it looks like or tracking towards. So this video is probably going to run out of date in about a week or two time as we sort of get updates, etc. There potentially could be more injuries, sadly. Which will rule a lot of guys out. We'll get role updates, etc. I mean, we've had another role update, which has sort of hampered our forward line yet again. Like, forward line is just getting smashed pretty much to pieces, at least all the 600k guys plus. But yeah, we'll get into that as well. That won't actually have an impact on the rookies, but we'll get into that when we go to the team update or player versus player comparison videos, which should be starting soon. But anyway, before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this video. So as you can see here, I do have it set up at the moment for 300 to 399k, as there are some rookies or what I classify as rookies in that range. First off, you got Harley Reid. He'll play round one unless he's injured. There was a little bit of an injury concern in the last sort of couple of days with him. Just some soreness. I think it wasn't anything major, to be honest with you, so he'll be fine in my opinion. Play round one off the halfback, it sounds like, and get a little bit of midfield time, average 75-80, and that'll be what he does, and could potentially actually stay in the top 6 for the forward line if he does go that 85 plus. But that'll be a major halfback role that would have to do it. Basically what Duggan was doing last year off the back line, it seems like, or taking up basically all of Hearn's points and some. But yeah, he's there. No one else here really. There's rookie contenders, and then you've got Marty Hoare. And if we look at DFS for Marty Hoare, you will see exactly why I think he's in a lot of people's sides, and we're just hoping that he stays in the get best 22 for the Demons. Even though they do have the early bye, you will see his VFL stats here. You can just there almost is no point in me clicking on these because you can just sort of see the average that he's putting up. Currently, I have selected his last 10 games, he's scored 106. The whole year in the VFL, if we quickly just bring this up, he is averaging 102.5 in the VFL off 19 games, off that halfback row. And he is currently priced at 307k, which if I just quickly do the maths for 307 divided by the 9,000, he's priced at about 34. So he's priced at 34, has done 100 in the VFL. He's obviously not going to do 100 in the AFL, but he could do 60 is enough for him. Basically, 65 is enough for him, and that is 40 point unders of what he's doing in the VFL. So if he gets that best 22 spot at the Demons, if Salem, with worries about Salem injury, etc., all he has to do is have about 3 or 4 good games, and then he's got enough cash gen at the rate that he could easily go 80, 75 or something like that. And that'll be enough for him to jump 250k very, very quickly. And that is the reason why a lot of people have him in their sides. And yeah, it does have the late-ish buy, but we could almost jump off by then. That would be the round 6 buy. And for me, I don't have any Tigers guys so at the moment. So my plan is hopefully, and plans do change, but hopefully Hoare will be able to be upgraded by then. McRae, round 5 bye, but if he gets that midfield spot or that half forward spot that is left by the likes of Adams, he's priced at 310k, which is roughly around that, 310 is roughly around the 34.3, even the 47 that he put up on limited time on ground, I believe, in last year for McRae, is going to have upside. Obviously, he does have the early game, so we do get a look at him in the round 0. Sorry, I did the wrong McRae. Yes, I did the wrong one. Let me just get the right one back. Finn McRae, and he's been tearing it up in the VFL. These are the types of guys that you sort of look for, and so that is why I'm looking at him. And you can see it was on 37% time on ground that he did that, and 24% CBAs. It is awfully similar to what we sort of expect him to do. I would expect sort of that 30 to 40% CBA role for him, and you can just see in the VFL here, he is putting up absolute monster numbers. this whole year. If you look at the VFL, the whole year for the VFL, he put up in 17 games, he put up 94.1. Similar to Marty Hall, could easily put up a 75, which is absolutely enough. And especially in the forward line being that weak, you can sort of warrant another 10 or so less off that. So if he goes 65, that's still plus 31. That is exactly what you want from these type of guys. And that is why he's sort of a rookie. And then outside of that, there's no real rookies here, obviously, as they sort of go up towards that 400k price tag. Then we'll move into the 200kers, and we'll go from 290 downwards. Callan Jamieson, sort of a ruck guy, I believe, and I don't expect, with Bailey Williams and Matt Flynn there, I don't expect him to get much game time, to be honest. Colby McKercher could be the number one midfielder for the comp in terms of rookie cash generation, just because he's got that halfback role. And if we sort of expect what we saw out of Dacos and Sheasel and what we sort of expect out of Harley Reid, I'd expect Colby McKercher to go probably about 5 points better, just because they probably got the same role in itself, but they're sort of less distributors off the halfback flank for the Kangaroos, comparative to that of the West Coast Eagles, who are probably going to have Duggan, Witherden, and also Hoff in the lineup as well, who are all good distributors by foot. So I reckon Colby's just going to get a lot more ball in that way, and so that's why I expect him to do a little bit better than Harley Reid in terms of that in general. But I think he'll do better than Riley Sanders, because Riley Sanders will follow a similar path to the likes of Will Ashcroft. Yes, I'm picking names from the from very recent drafts. But also, I think that just in terms of the Dogs' midfield and how it's set up with the Brisbane Lions, he will have a similar impact as well, which I believe was roughly about 75, if I just quickly go to Ashcroft here. We saw him go 83 across the season. I'm expecting Riley Sanders probably 75 to 85, somewhere around that range, and that'll be all she wrote for him, but that is roughly where we need him. And I think Colby McKercher could go 80 to 90, so I think he's just bumped up by 5 or 10 and so in that role, because they're both absolute accumulators, but I just think that the likes of a Colby McKercher with that role is just a little bit more fantasy friendly. Michael Carter, no. Jed Walter, injured early, so won't play, and is also a key forward, so I don't think his results will translate too much to the fantasy game. Harvey Harrison, I don't think gets too much of a game, to be honest. Lockie Keefe, no thank you. He's just one of the worst fantasy positions ever. Zane Dersma, I currently have in my side, but is on the bench, and the reason is, and yes, I don't like him as a fantasy output, so I'm not going to put him on field, but there's some players that you just need to go with the crowd on in case you get it wrong, and Zane Dersma is one of those players, because in case he goes out round 1, has a really good debut and gets an 80, I'm pretty much locked out of him, and I could be wrong on my opinion. So there's sometimes that you need to temper your sort of thoughts, and a lot of people have said this, where pods, you kind of don't want guys that are very, very poddish. You would rather go with the crowd early and make better trades and get that cash gen early, because if you have too many pods, like a 1% or something like that, and they don't go well, you're sort of left behind. So I reckon with Dersma, it's one of those occasions where if it doesn't go well early and he gets a low score, I can jump ship very, very quickly to Darcy Wilson or like a Darcy Jones or something like that very, very quickly. But if he does go well, then I've just got him on my bench for cash gen reasons, as I believe I've got better starters anyway over the top of him, but he's just going to be better for cash gen reasons. And can also just, if he does go well, can just fill in over the top and stuff like that. He can go in. So he can go in if all hell breaks loose, and he does actually score really well. But given the role that I think he's going to get as that sort of third forward, I think we're going to see very much a very similar type role to the likes of, and I know I'm bringing this back very, very to the likes of a Will Hayward or even an Isaac Heaney type of role. So we'll look at those two guys. Will Hayward in his rookie year went 50.8 and then 60.2. And then we look at Isaac Heaney, who I think is going to have comparatively more midfield time to the likes of Zane Dersma. In his rookie year, he went 66.8. So that's still pretty good from Zane Dersma. I don't expect him to hit the heights of a Isaac Heaney type in the in his rookie year. as what did Isaac do? Isaac, yeah, he put up pretty good numbers in his rookie. I don't expect him to do exactly that. If we look at Rochelle as well, I think Rochelle is also another guy that you can sort of look at for the Dersma. And he went 52. So there's a lot of these guys around the same sort of region that go 50s to 60s, not necessarily the Harley Reid that has a better role in my opinion, but we can sort of expect Zane Dersma to do that, which will be cash gen, but it won't be necessarily the big booming scores that you want on field. So that's sort of what I have with Zane Dersma. And one thing I think I'd love to see put on the AFL Fantasy website, I don't know if it does, it probably does have it actually. Coach's choice is probably what we're going to, so that would be, I need to actually probably get that. It's just the fantasy gold or whatever to get that stats or whatever, because I do want to see what the split is with Zane Dersma on ground, as I would think probably at the moment it's probably 50-50 or 60-40, something like that. I don't think it's more than that. Emerson Jacob, don't think he'll play. Zambday, no, none of these guys are really. Nick Watson, don't think he is going to be the pick, as he's just going to get that dumpster role at the Hawks this year, sadly. Great player, but just not fantasy relevant in my opinion. McAndrew won't play. Lazaro, another interesting one, just need to see if he starts, as he could be a guy to pick up and just sort of hold in that midfield. Could do better than the likes of Jai Clark, etc. at if he does get a game, as he does rip it up in the VFL. So there is that to think about as we go here just to DFS. And you'll see with Lazaro, you'll see a very what I'm talking about here with the VFL again, another guy just ripping it up and just deserves to get a chance. And yes, he won't do what he does in the VFL. In the AFL, he won't get those numbers. But if you look at the VFL, and he was getting midfield time in the VFL, so there's that. You'll see the VFL numbers here. 104, and this is this whole year. 1 second, 99.4 in 13 games in the VFL. And you see with his AFL, you can see he's basically had 2 games, or 3 games, where he's actually played. And then the AFL in those 3 games where he's actually played decent time on ground, he's gone 60.3. He's currently priced at around about, if we look at it, 288k for Charlie Lazaro, which 288k divided by the magic number is roughly 31.8. So there is 30 points of upside. And even in that game, he had a really stinker of a game in one of the games that he played where he put up like a 29. And so, so I think there is massive upside if he just gets into the best 22. But if he's sub, then disregard that. Tunstall, don't think he gets on the park. Sanders, again, like McKercher, going to be a great rookie to have. Priced at 285k, which is around about, what did we say for Lazaro? Was about 31. So I reckon he's going to be priced at around... let me just quickly do that, do the 285 divided by that is 31.5, so he'll go plus 40, plus 50 potentially on that. So that he's just going to be huge cash gen, massive cash gen out of like Ashcroft last year, Dacos the year before. Sheasel obviously was a premium, but those guys make cash very quickly, get up to the 550, 600k very quickly. So that's what I expect out of Sanders. Sharp, another guy on the wing, just highly undervalued, and will be interesting to see how he goes on the wing. I don't expect him to do like Riley Sanders, but I sort of expect him to go that sort of 65 to 75 range. Will be enough to cover if you have a rookie, a guy on a round 0, like a primo, will be enough to cover that and to break that down to only sort of a 2 or a 3, especially because Sharp in the game that potentially the likes of Sam Walsh has is only in North. He could go 75, 85 in that game, which could cut down the Walsh loss to only 25, 30, which would be +1 or something like that on his adjusted average or whatever, to cover that, to make him a viable pick on top of those guys that have the extra game. So that's sort of the thing that is actually swaying me back towards Walsh, is that Jeremy Sharp has a really kind game. Alongside, you could also just put, maybe if Jeremy Sharp doesn't have a good game, you could put some other guys in that could potentially cover that really well. Visitini, Windsor is another guy currently not in my side, but I've heard some good things, but we'll just have to see him in round 0. We get a look at him. If he goes well, then he'll be a cash gen option and will be in my side, but if he doesn't go well, then he'll just be one that misses. Simple as that. Curtin has had some knee issues, but is the only real defender rookie that we have at the moment that I'm looking at, that I really know much about. So I think even though he's a key position, he's going to put up 50s, which will just generate cash. Very similar to Zane Dersma, to be honest with you. But Zane Dersma, I'm less certain of because of the defender rookies are a lot harder to come by that actually score really well comparative to the sort of forward rookies that just get that CBA split, or those forward rookies that's like a Harley Reid or something like that. That's a natural midfielder, but is played forward in the like state champs or something like that, gotten forward status and is actually playing midfielder. So Curtin, I just think if he plays key position, he'll go 55. If he doesn't play key position, plays more of a third tall or part in the midfield, he can go 65. So that's sort of the numbers that I'm looking at there for him, and he'll just make good cash in out of that. Moving down, there's no one here really. Nate Caddy, I think, just gets the dumpster role again as a sort of a third tall key position player at Essendon. Don't think he'll generate much. Fantasy wise, could be better in Supercoach just because of the way scoring works there. But in fantasy, he's not going to get bulk touches. He's not going to get bulk marks or bulk tackles, and that's the reason why he's not there. Same reason Connor O'Sullivan isn't really a good option either, is just because he is a key defender, and key defenders don't score well in fantasy unless they're in a chip marky type system, and that him being there will unleash Tom Stewart to play that chip mark sort of role. No one who really I'm looking at. Colton Tholstrup could be interesting as a forward, but he's just flagged at the moment. I probably should flag all these playing sort of rookies, star them so that I know that they're... So Ethan Reed's also injured, by the way, I believe, or just not going to play, so he's there as well. And Reece McGuinness could be another interesting one, but I think Finn McRae gets the role over him, so that's why I'd be not going there. Bedinento, I believe, or I butchered that name anyway, but I believe he's doing well on the track as well, so one to watch there, but not too much on him. Sin, he's been going well, but that was a very early season, early preseason stuff that he was doing, so we'll see if he gets the good role that we want, or just a playing role, to be honest with you. Gibcus coming back could generate some cash off the bench as a sort of... I expect him not to play as a key. I sort of expect him to play that third tall, which is sort of key-ish areas, but not exactly. And I think he does have some distribution sort of traits that will allow him to do slightly better. So I'm sort of projecting him to go 65 or so, but won't be too dangerous. So yeah, there's that with him. Will Green won't play. Zach Reed, another interesting one. Been touted up more Supercoach, I think, than Fantasy, but just one to sort of keep an eye out on. Leak, I don't see playing, to be honest with you. Darcy Wilson, another guy that we've sort of talked about already. I sort of expect him to play, but I'd like to see him first, to be honest with you, and be one that I can sort of jump on as a 249k. He's not going to get too far away from me, but he's one that if Zane Dersma fails and he does well, just swap him around, as simple as that. First couple of weeks, we're looking at rookie flipping to get the cash gen team value. That is all that we're doing first couple of weeks. McNeil, no one. Matty Roberts, if he gets a game, could be interesting, but midfielder, I just don't see him best 22 at the moment with you. It's as simple as that. He is a very, very good player, but I don't see him being best 22. There is a video that I want to do with the Swan fans that I'm in with a Twitter group with. I want to get there. I'll do sort of a best 23 and collate all that data and have a sort of a visual representation of what we as Swans fans expect the best 23 to be. And I'm sure Roberts will probably be in the section that misses out, just as that is just due to Jake Lloyd, Braden Campbell and Florent being ahead of him. And Cunningham, he may take Cunningham's place, but that is sort of what we're expecting Roberts to sort of do, and that's the reason why he is one that I'm flagging, but I'm not too keen on. Mullen, heard some good things out of preseason, but it is an Irish guy. Still learning to play the game, so I don't expect him to have too much of an influence. Charlie Edwards, another guy, I'm pretty sure he's a tall midfielder by trait. I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, but he could get a game early and really disrupt that Adelaide midfield. But again, don't expect him to play early too much or have too much of an influence at the moment. But that is what preseason and sort of round 1, round 2 is sort of destined to do, is sort of figure out how these guys play. Jai Clark, I expect Geelong to blood some more guys in their midfield, especially Conway and Clark, I think, are the guys next up to really take that step, and that's why he's currently in the side, but could obviously switch to a Darcy Wilson or someone like that and get that cash in going if he doesn't play. Caden Cleary won't play early on, I don't expect. Di Matteo heard some good things, but heard also that it's just hard to get into that Collingwood Premiership side, rightfully so. They won the Premiership, it's going to be hard. And I think that McRae is just ahead of him. To be honest with you, you got McGuinness as well ahead, I believe. So yeah, it will be hard for him to get into the side, especially with also McCreary playing a different role. I believe it's McCreary playing a slightly more on-ball role, we suspect. But I suspect it'll be slightly sort of like Rochelle is going to play. But I'm back in Rochelle to have better numbers than McRae anyway. Sorry, not McRae, McCreary. Cadman, no. Yulin, no. We're sort of getting down to the 200Kers. Moya, I like, actually. But Ulan could be one that's interesting, but I expect you've got Buderick, Sexton, Will Powell, McPherson all ahead of him, to be honest, at the moment. Moya, interesting, slid down on the draft rankings, is sort of that small forward, I think. But yeah, definitely had a horrible run with, I believe, injuries, and also just his under 18s year was not the best. But those are the type of guys that can actually do really well in fantasy because they slide down the order. They're really, really valuable. But also, he's just a forward. I don't expect him to do too much. But 45-50 for him is very much the equivalent of like a 280 midfielder going, like Jeremy Sharp going like 55-60. So he's there or thereabouts, but we'd sort of need him to go that 55-60 to be very, very valuable. No one else here that I'm really too interested. Don't really understand the hype with Billy Wilson. Would need to look into him more, but I'm sure I can just I can get in contact with some Carlton guys to see what the hype around Billy Wilson is. Jackson Binns, heard some stuff about him and potentially him getting a game, but I forgot what position it was necessarily that he'd be getting. Was it a wing role or something like that? But let's actually just check Binns in the VFL and see, because I'm pretty sure this comes off the fact of him just playing really well in the VFL, and that's the reason behind it. You can see here, yeah, that is just dumb numbers in the VFL. I'm looking here. He has had 10 straight games of, 9 straight games of 112 or higher in the VFL in his last 9. If you go the whole season, he's had two non-ton games, 1 non-ton game after week 1. He's averaged 116 in the VFL. That's why there's hype around him getting a game potentially. So yeah, see that. Then we get to basically the 200k guys, and Indy Kirk's not going to play, I can tell you that as a Swans fan. He's sort of just let's see if it works in the VFL and see if it, in 12 months time, if he actually plays well in the VFL, he may get sort of up the order. Clay Hall, I've heard some good things, but also in the interest club games, they have 6 midfielders that they need, 6, 8, 10 midfielders. So he could just be one that debuts mid-season or something if they get injuries. I feel like he's one of the first off the rank now in the reserves, to be honest. I think he's proven that. And Will Allen, another guy with another year under his belt. Pretty sure he's put up some decent VFL performances. McAuliffe is another guy that I've heard has done really well as well at Richmond from all training reports. So he's one that could have an early game as well. At 200k, you get a good look at him, and then you can go for him. Does have that early buy, but could be interesting. A 200k guy that has a good round 0 that you get at basement price could be, it's almost like a free 30k discount that you get on him if he does really well. If he debuts round 0 and gets a really good score, you basically get 30k debut. As a lot of the guys we were picking up last year were 220k, 230k because you wanted that insurance from that debut the previous week. George Stevens, another guy that I think has the body to be able to go early, sort of like Jimby, but a lot down the order, obviously drafted wise. But I think he has the body to just the physicality to go early and play early. But whether they chuck him in early will be a different story. Lawson Humphrey, Sean Manor. Sean Manor, just a mature age guy. I think he gets games early, to be honest with you, but need to check with Geelong guys. But I think he's just one that almost they need another. They could use another small. I know that they have a good small brigade, but you can not back down a guy that won best on ground, 26 opposed to 6 goals. I think he's just one that could provide speed to the Geelong midfield. To be honest with you, Mitchell won't play as a Swans fan. Just going through here. Anyone else? Bruce Revel, heard some news about him, but that was a good week or so ago now. So I forgot exactly what it was, but probably just training pretty well is usually the good reports that we get. And don't remember too much from any of these guys down here at this point. Darcy Jones as well. Heard from Toby Green that he could potentially get a decent role in fantasy, and he's 200k, his basement price. And we get a good look at him in round 0. So like McAuliffe could be one guy that gets a 60 as a forward, and then you're like, yep, I can save some money on him, potentially save some money on if Mana doesn't debut or something like that. And you get a guy that's scoring 50s, 60s off the bench, and that can cover somewhat in your early buys with a lot of Sydney players coming up in the forward line, and also Finn McRae, etc. like that. You get some round 5 guys. You may need to have a couple that cover there. And Darcy Jones could be one that you look at for that job. And Jacob Constanti battle with probably Wicks and Sheldrick for one of the spots in the Swans midfield. In the Swans best 22 or best 23, even though they play different positions. There was Constanti and Angus Sheldrick. There's sort of consensus of to get Sheldrick in, one of the midfielders has to play a bigger split forward, etc. And that's how you get Sheldrick in. But if that isn't the case and they want to go with Wicks or Constanti, that's how you get one of those two in. So that is sort of the thought there. He could be interesting as a Swans, from the Swans perspective, just because he's a really good tackler, and tackles are very, very highly rated in this. He could easily put up a 5 tackle effort as a small forward, get 6 or 8 possessions, and that gets him up to a 50 or so very, very quickly. And that's sort of the way I see him going. Brendan George, another one that's sort of ripped up the trap apparently in pre-season. I'd need to see the role he was going to play. And and Finbar Malley, in case Jerry is out, could be the ruck that we need there as an R3. And that is pretty much all that I've heard from these 200Kers. You got Toby Pink and Jacob Ryan. Toby Pink will play. It's just a matter of does he have enough cash gen in him. And Jacob Ryan, defender, could be interesting to see if he gets a game. And Burgell, another guy that I flagged just because apparently he could get a game in that West Coast side, and he could easily put up 50 or 60 in the defender role. But anyway, that is pretty much the video. Would need to brush up on a lot of these guys, sort of the 200Ks, and see what position they're sort of destined to play necessarily. But I hope that gave you guys a good rundown, just going through the last little bit. And there was no one else that I really looked at and thought they're 200Ks. They'll be interesting, to be honest. So that is sort of the rundown of the rookies and how I see it turning out. But anyway, that's the video, and I'll see you guys in probably the next video. Will be a player comparison between 2 players of choice. And so yeah, I'll probably do a Twitter poll or something like that to get that video, sort of those ideas streaming. But anyway, that's the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.